She was only 12 years old when the door creaked open, and a man twice her age stepped inside. The chamber was cold, the torches low, and her heart hammered like a drum of war. This was not love, it was a transaction. A child traded as a pawn in a game of power, her innocence turned into a contract written in blood. Tonight was her wedding night, and it was only the beginning of her story. Section 1. You wake to the bite of cold stone beneath your bare feet. The chamber is vast yet suffocating, shadows stretched thin by torches fixed in iron sconces. Their flames crackle, painting the walls with restless light. Heavy tapestries hang from beams above, faded by years of smoke and damp. Dust clings to them like a second skin. The scent is thick, wool gone musty, candle wax gone stale, and the faint tang of sweat that lingers in rooms meant for ceremony rather than comfort. Your heart pounds as though it wants to shatter its way free from your ribcage. At 12 years old, you are as narrow as a reed, your wrists lost within the sleeves of the stiff brocade gown forced upon you. The fabric is thick, embroidered in threads that glisten when the torchlight catches them, beautiful to the eye but cruel against the skin. It presses down like invisible chains. Every step feels unnatural, as though the garment itself resents the child it must dress. The oaken door groans open on rusted hinges. From the hall steps a man, twice your age, his boots echoing on the flagstones. His cheeks are ruddy with wine, and when he exhales, the sourness of the feast downstairs invades the chamber. His eyes, ringed with exhaustion and expectation, find you immediately. He does not smile. He does not soften. He looks at you as a king might look at an heirloom handed to him by treaty, a possession weighed in gold and blood. This is no dream of love, no tale sung by minstrels of knights and ladies. This is your wedding night. And fear coils inside you like a serpent, tightening with every beat of your heart. You have been told since infancy that your body belongs not to you but to the alliances your family forges. Tonight, that lesson takes form in flesh. You are no longer a daughter. You are a vessel. The vessel through which heirs will be delivered, alliances cemented, and dynasties preserved. Your failure, whether by barrenness, miscarriage, or defiance, would mean annulment, disgrace, perhaps even the silent grave of childbirth before a dawn you would never see. He approaches, shoulders square beneath a mantle stitched with his house's sigil. You smell the iron tang of steel on him, sword oil and sweat from training yards he left behind only for this night. He does not pause when he reaches you. His hand, roughened by years of holding weapons, lifts your chin. You will be brave, he says, his voice steady but low, as though speaking to a soldier before a battle. Your lips tremble, but no answer comes. The chamber falls back into silence except for the wind that moans through narrow arrow slits, carrying with it the reminder that beyond these walls lies a kingdom that expects obedience. And so begins the unraveling of childhood. Section 2. The torches sputter as if they too resist what the night demands. You grip the carved edge of a cedar chest, its surface cold and unyielding beneath your palms. The chest is older than you, etched with the arms of your mother's house, 3 falcons soaring above a field of lilies. How mocking they seem now, symbols of freedom carved into wood while you remain trapped in flesh. He circles you once, his gaze searching, weighing. You feel your knees weaken, not from desire, not even from exhaustion, but from the dread that coils tighter with every heartbeat. Do you know why you are here? He asks, though the question needs no answer. His tone is not cruel, but firm, habitual, like a man accustomed to command. Yes, my lord, you whisper. The words scrape from your throat. Say my name, he insists. Your lips part, the sound faltering as though the very syllables resist. Lord Aurelian, you breathe, the name unfamiliar, bitter. He nods once, as if this confirms something only he can measure. His hand brushes the heavy curtain drawn across the bed. The sheets have already been prepared, white linen smooth and waiting, for tomorrow the servants will seek proof of your innocence in stains no child should ever be forced to leave behind. The ritual is known to you. You've heard the whispers of the women in the kitchens, speaking of the ceremony with hushed tones, part horror, part inevitability. You had thought them cruel stories meant to frighten girls. But the bed, too large for your narrow frame, now stands as silent testimony that the stories were truth. You think of your mother. You remember her voice when she told you that you must obey, for your marriage binds more than two bodies, it binds kingdoms. She kissed your brow, though her lips were cold. Perhaps she knew what awaited and could offer nothing more than that chill blessing. The man removes his mantle, laying it across a stool with deliberate care. The silence stretches, broken only by the restless pop of the fire in the hearth. Shadows lunge across the stone walls like dark figures waiting to witness. "Do not fear me," he says, though the command is impossible. His voice softens a degree, almost weary. "This night is duty. One day you may understand." Tears prick your eyes, but you dare not let them fall. You know the punishment for a bride who resists, whispered in the corridors of the keep, to be sent away, declared barren or defiled, her family's honor stained beyond repair. You cannot, must not, bring such ruin. So you steady your hands. You force your breath into even rhythm, though inside you tremble as if standing upon the edge of an abyss. And when he reaches for you, you do not resist. You close your eyes, and in that darkness, you whisper a prayer not to God, not even to the saints carved into the chapel stone, but to yourself, that some part of you will survive the night, even if all else is taken. Section 3. When dawn comes, it is not with fanfare but with a gray pallor that seeps through the narrow slits of the chamber wall. The torches have burned down to ash, leaving smoke stains curling upward like the ghosts of the night just past. You lie still, your limbs heavy, your gown discarded at the foot of the bed, and the linen beneath you marked in crimson. The servants will come soon. You know this. They will carry the sheets to the hall, parade them before gathered lords and clerics, a silent proclamation that the union has been sealed. You imagine their faces, the men with their smug nods, the women with eyes that will not meet yours. Proof of virtue, they will call it. Evidence of obedience. Yet it feels to you like evidence of theft, proof that childhood has been robbed from you in a single night. Beside you, Aurelian stirs. His breathing is deep, untroubled, the breath of a man who has done what was expected of him, and carries no guilt. His arm lies heavy across your middle, not tender but possessive, as though you are no longer a girl but an estate he has conquered, a prize absorbed into his dominion. You slip from beneath the weight of his arm and rise quietly. The cold stone bites your feet again as you pace to the window. Beyond, the courtyard is stirring awake, stable boys fetching water, dogs barking at the morning clamor, a cook's boy scurrying with a basket of eggs. The world goes on, indifferent to the breaking of a child's spirit. The door creaks. An older woman enters, her veil marking her as one of the house's matrons. She does not look at you directly. Instead, her eyes go to the bed, to the stain. She nods once, her lips pursed. "It is done," she murmurs, more to herself than to you. She gathers the linen with brisk, efficient movements, ignoring the tremor of your hands as you clutch the edge of your shift. "Does it always feel this way?" you ask before you can stop yourself. Your voice cracks like a reed in the wind. Her hands pause. At last she glances at you, her expression unreadable. "The first night is always the hardest," she replies softly. "Afterward you learn not to feel so much. Not to feel so much." The words slice through you. You wonder if that is how queens and duchesses endure, by dulling the edges of their own hearts until the blade no longer cuts. Aurelian wakes and rises, fastening his tunic with soldier's precision. He spares you a glance, a flicker of acknowledgement, but no smile, no comfort. He addresses the matron instead. "Tell them the betting is proven," he commands. "The alliance is secure." You watch him leave, his boots echoing on the stone, each step carrying him back toward the feast hall, where lords will toast his triumph. You are left behind with nothing but silence and a hollow ache that no song or prayer can soothe. And in that silence, a vow forms in you, not spoken aloud, not written in ink, but etched deep within. You will survive this. You will learn their games, their politics, their cruelties. If your body is their battlefield, then your mind will be your fortress. You will not be broken. Section 4. The day after the bedding, the great hall erupted in celebration. You sat upon the dais beside Lord Aurelian, your body stiff beneath the weight of the circlet pressed upon your brow. The crown was too large, it slipped forward, threatening to cover your eyes. Servants had patted it with cloth to steady it, but the heaviness remained, and you felt it sink into your skull as though it meant to carve a permanent groove there. Banners of gold and green fluttered above, the sigils of your house intermingled with his. Minstrels played lutes, their songs loud and merry, though the notes clashed with the hollow thud in your chest. Boars roasted on spits, the smell of their fat filling the air. Platters of venison, bowls of stewed pears, trenchers piled high with bread. All paraded before the lords who drank and laughed, and shouted blessings that rang false to your ears. Aurelian raised his goblet and spoke for both of you. The bond is sealed. The kingdoms of Remia and Varro are as one, and none shall break this union. The men roared approval. Your hands curled in your lap. No one asked if you desired the union. No one asked if you wished to be sealed. Your role was complete. You had bled, you had endured, and now you were a vessel to be filled with sons. When the feast waned, you slipped from the dais, your steps swift as a startled doze. You found the chapel empty, save for the faint scent of wax and the quiet presence of carved saints standing sentinel in their niches. You knelt, though no words came. Prayer felt hollow, a ritual as empty as the vows spoken in Latin, words that had bound your life to a stranger's hand. But then you heard a sound, the shuffle of feet on the flagstones. You turned to see a boy not much older than yourself, dressed in plain wool. He carried a bundle of candles, his hair falling over his brow. He froze when he saw you, then lowered his head quickly. "Forgive me, my lady," he murmured. You shook your head. "You need not call me that. I am hardly more than a child." His eyes flickered to yours then, hesitant, curious. "You are the lady now, whether you wish it or no." The honesty of it struck you. You gave a bitter laugh, though it caught in your throat. "And you? What is your name?" "Edrin," he said. His hands tightened on the bundle of candles. "I serve in the chapel. I am no one of note." "No one of note," you echoed softly. "Perhaps that is better. Better than being bound like a falcon with clipped wings." He studied you a moment, then glanced away, as though fearful his gaze itself might be a crime. "Falcons still fly in their dreams, my lady." You held on to those words long after he had gone. That night, when Aurelian returned to claim his place beside you, you closed your eyes and thought of falcons. Of wings that might one day beat against the chains. Section 5. Weeks bled into months. The castle, once foreign, became a gilded prison whose stones you knew as well as the lines of your palms. You learned the rhythm of its days, the ringing of bells at dawn, the shuffle of guards along the walls, the chatter of kitchen servants whose laughter never quite reached your chambers. Aurelian traveled often. He rode to patrol the borderlands, to attend councils, to hunt in the king's forests. When he was gone, the air seemed lighter, the corridors less suffocating. When he returned, the weight pressed down again, heavy and relentless. He was never cruel, not in the way of fists or lash, but his presence suffocated. His words were commands, his silences verdicts. He expected obedience, and you gave it, for now. It was Edrin who brought moments of reprieve. You saw him first in the chapel, then more often in the cloisters or carrying jugs of oil to refill the lamps. Each time your paths crossed, he bowed low, but his eyes, quick and bright, lingered a moment longer than propriety allowed. And each time, you felt the stirrings of something you could not yet name. One late afternoon, while the autumn wind rattled the shutters, you found him kneeling in the chapel, lighting candles. The glow lit his face, softening the sharpness of his features. You hesitated, then stepped forward. "You spoke once of falcons," you whispered. He looked up, startled, then gave a small smile. "I? Do you still think of them?" "Every day," you confessed. "They remind me that not all chains are unbreakable." His hand trembled slightly as he lit another wick. Chains break when their weight grows too heavy to hold. The question is whether the one bound has the strength to wait. You should have walked away then. You should have silenced him, for words like these were dangerous. But instead, you lowered yourself onto the step beside him, your gown pooling on the cold stone. "I have strength," you said. Your voice was soft, but inside you felt the truth of it harden like tempered steel. He glanced at you, his gaze unguarded for the first time. "I believe you do." The sound of footsteps in the corridor made you rise swiftly, your heart leaping to your throat. Edrin bent his head, feigning his task, while you retreated into the shadows. That night, Aurelian came to you again. His hands were firm, his touch insistent, his breath laced with the tang of wine. You closed your eyes, but instead of falcons, you thought of Edrin's quiet smile, his trembling hands, the certainty in his words. And for the first time since the night your childhood ended, you felt a flicker of defiance burn in your chest. Section 6. Winter arrived with cruel teeth. The rivers froze, the fields lay barren, and the castle huddled against the gales that howled across the hills. Fires burned day and night in the great hall, yet the chill lingered in every corner, creeping beneath cloaks and gnawing at bones. For you, the cold was sharper than the air. It was the cold of waiting, of expectation, of the constant press of eyes upon you. The matrons whispered when you passed. The chambermaids watched you closely when you woke each morning. All were waiting for the same sign, swelling at your waist, the first proof of an heir. Months stretched, but your belly remained flat. Each time your courses came, you burned with shame and dread. What if your body betrayed you? What if you were declared barren before you had even ceased being a child? One morning, Lady Rehild, an aunt of Aurelian's, summoned you. She sat in her chamber before a hearth piled high with oak logs, her veil white as winter snow, her fingers heavy with rings. She studied you with hawk's eyes. "You are young," she said, her voice clipped. "But youth has never excused failure. Already tongues wag. They wonder if you are unfit to bear fruit. You must prove them wrong." Her words struck like lashes. You bowed your head, murmuring, "Yes, my lady." She leaned closer. "Do you know what happens to brides who cannot give heirs? They are set aside. Cast away. Some live in convents, hidden from sight. Some vanish altogether. Do not think yourself untouchable because your father is a king. Kings trade daughters as they trade coin. Remember that." You left trembling, the chill of her threat colder than the snow outside. That evening you sought refuge in the chapel again. Edrin was there, sweeping the stone floor. He looked up, his brow furrowing at the sight of you, pale and shaken. "What has happened?" he asked softly. You hesitated, then let the words spill out. "They say I may be cast aside if I do not give him a son. I am 12 years old, and already they measure my worth by what my body has not yet given." Edrin gripped the broom, his knuckles white. "It is unjust," he said through clenched teeth. "You are a child. How can they demand this of you?" "Because I am not a child to them," you whispered bitterly. "I am a womb wrapped in silk." Silence stretched between you, broken only by the crackle of the small votive candles. At last he stepped closer, lowering his voice to a near whisper. "Then remember what I told you. Even falcons bound to the fist still dream of flight. Hold that dream. Do not let them take it." You met his gaze, and in it you saw not pity but something fiercer, a quiet recognition, as though he saw you not as a bride or a pawn, but as yourself. For the first time in weeks, warmth returned to your chest, fragile as an ember, but burning nonetheless. Section 7. Spring broke the grip of winter, and with it came unrest. Messengers rode through the gates with tidings of raiders in the north, bandits in the forests, rival lords stirring. The court buzzed with rumor and fear, and Aurelian rode often to put down threats before they grew. Each absence stretched into weeks, and though the matrons kept their watchful eyes on you, their vigilance waned when their lord was away. It was during these absences that you came to know Edrin more fully. At first your conversations were brief, stolen in the chapel or the cloister garden. He spoke of simple things, the taste of bread fresh from the oven, the thrill of climbing the castle's outer wall when he was a boy, the ache of longing for a mother he scarcely remembered. You found his stories plain yet precious. They were reminders that life existed beyond treaties and crowns. One evening after Vespers, you found him in the scriptorium, hunched over a table with a quill in hand. You paused at the threshold, surprised. "You can write?" He glanced up, startled. Clumsily. "One of the priests taught me letters. I copy prayers when work is scarce." You stepped inside, curiosity overcoming caution. On the parchment were words in rough Latin, ink blotched but legible. Ave Maria, gratia plena. The sight stirred something in you, a hunger. "I was never taught," you admitted. "They told me it was not a lady's duty. A lady must know to stitch, to curtsy, to bear sons, but not to read." Edrin's brow furrowed. "A mind left starved is a crime. If you wish, I could teach you." The words hung between you, dangerous, forbidden. Yet your heart leapt. "Teach me," you whispered. So began nights in shadowed corners of the chapel, candlelight flickering on parchment as he guided your hand with the quill. His fingers brushed yours, light, fleeting, but enough to send warmth racing through you. He showed you letters, then words, then sentences. Each time you shaped one correctly, he smiled, and you felt the chains upon you loosen just a little. But danger grew alongside learning. One night, as you traced the word libertas, freedom, the chapel door creaked. You both froze. It was Lady Rehild. Her sharp eyes narrowed, flicking from the parchment to your flushed cheeks. "What treachery is this?" she hissed. You scrambled to your feet, words tumbling. "It is nothing, my lady, only prayers. Prayers taught by a servant boy." Her voice was venom. "Does your husband know you waste time with such folly?" Edrin bowed low, his voice steady despite the peril. "Forgive me, lady. It was my error. I sought only to aid her piety." Rehild's lips thinned. "You will cease at once, or I will see your back striped with a lash." She swept from the chapel, her veil trailing like a banner of judgment. When she was gone, you turned to Edrin, your breath ragged. "We must stop," you whispered. Yet even as you said it, you knew it was a lie. For the taste of knowledge, of freedom, had already taken root, and no threat could unmake it. Section 8. The Closing Threads. Suspicion shadowed you after that night in the chapel. Lady Rehild's sharp glances followed you in the hall, her whispers poisoned ears at court. Yet Aurelian seemed oblivious. His mind was consumed by matters of land and war. He left again for campaign, and with each absence, the castle fell into uneasy quiet. You continued your lessons in secret, though more cautiously. The word libertas, freedom, remained etched in your mind, carved deeper than any fear. Edrin's presence steadied you, his quiet strength a mirror to your own growing resolve. What began as whispers of rebellion within your heart grew into a vow: you would endure, but you would also shape your own fate. One evening, as spring bled into summer, you stood on the battlements. The sky was aflame with sunset, crimson and gold over the hills. Edrin joined you, silent until at last he said, "You are not the same girl I first saw in this chapel." You turned to him, your voice steady. "No. That girl was broken. But she learned to piece herself together." He met your gaze, unflinching. "Then one day, when the time comes, you will fly." And in that moment you believed him. Years later, when you would be called upon to rule in Aurelian's stead, when lords would test your will and enemies circle like wolves, it was not the memory of your wedding night that defined you. It was the ember of defiance you had carried, the lessons in ink and candlelight, the knowledge that even a falcon bound can dream of flight. You had been given to chains, but you had chosen to forge wings. And though history would remember you as a wife, a lady, a mother of heirs, in your own heart you knew the truth: you had been more than a vessel. You had been a survivor, a seeker of freedom, and a flame that would not be extinguished. The night that began in fear ended in resolve, and from that resolve, a life was carved, unyielding, unforgettable.